Well, the question that we're asking today is whether we should restrict social media use based on age. It's a complex question. Maybe it seems simple to you, but there are varied arguments on this one. While age based restrictions can offer the protection of harmful content, potential exploitation, it can also be seen in a different light. There are those who say that if you limit the access of social media due to age, you could actually hinder the access to valuable information. Also, the fact that digitization has become part of our life right now, and we really live on social media, so it's really part of our everyday. So that could actually hinder the development of digital skills as well. Well, we're going to be seeing this a conversation from two sides, and we'll see who's going to have the overwhelming argument in our The Africa View feature today. We're asking, should social media be age restricted? We are asking this question to Dr. Shahida Omar, who's a social justice activist and clinical director of the Teddy Bear Foundation. We also have Minon Hardy, who is the managing director of Life Choices, which is a youth development organization. Well, let me start with you, Dr. Shahida Omar. Welcome on the show. Tell us what your open debate is, what your opening points are on this particular matter.
Thank you, and morning.
Are you there? Doctor, can you hear me? Okay, let's see if we can get Mignon on this one. Mignon, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, you are on side B. So you were saying, you know what, we should continue allowing social media to be accessible. Give us your starting argument.
Yeah, I think we should. First of all, I just want to say that social media is already age restricted. So in most countries, you can't sign on to social media if you're below the age of 13 years. I think in some countries it might be slightly higher, but I know in South Africa, to open up a WhatsApp account or Facebook or TikTok, 13 years is the standard. And my argument is that, so first of all, that there is age restriction in place, and I think that is appropriate. But also, just by, if you were to increase those age restrictions, teens are going to find a way through that. So I don't believe that is the right method of dealing with some of the ills that come through in social media. And there are also lots of positives. I'm looking forward to hearing the alternative argument, because I was going to be responding to that in terms of, I know what is going to come up around the negative uses of social media. So we'll have to wait for that, and maybe I can respond to that afterwards. But I think that there are lots of positives. I think really from my perspective, and it's something that we talk about a lot in Life Choices, our youth development organization. Mm-hmm. Life is full of choices. And how do we help young people to make appropriate ones? And part of that is developing open communication between parents and child, and making sure that that young people also they're empowered by information, so that they can actually make their own decisions in a way that is appropriate and best to them. I think just making a blanket ban is never really going to assist young people to become independent and to really be thinking about who they are and how they want to be perceived in the world. At the same time, not providing them with any clear guidelines is also not going to be helpful in that way. So I do think that both parents and also schools and other institutions, we have a role to play in helping young people to navigate the really challenging and difficult parts of their lives, which are spent online. Some of the things that I've been thinking about is obviously having ground rules within the home, and also the modeling of parental behavior, because so often we might be ourselves just trolling on social media without thought to how much time we're spending there or what impact that behavior is having on our children in the home. Mm-hmm. And so how do we make sure that we both set clear ground rules for our children, but also keep to those behaviors ourselves, so that we can show that, you can have a life that is both partly online, but also one that is very much in the physical environment. I think there are also lots of tools. This is obviously a problem, and so there are tools that parents can adopt in order to help to protect their child from.
Okay. Hold on. Don't give out all your weaponry. Stay there, because it's still going to get more heated than this one. Let's find out what Dr. Shaheeda says on this one. Dr. Shaheeda, what's your take? You have the other side, and you're saying that there should be a limitation when it comes to age.
So absolutely. Working in a clinical setting, working with children on the ground, working with child victims, child victimizers displaying harmful sexual behavior, and we're seeing a lot more of that. We did a comprehensive research study on children who sexually abuse children, and these are children below the age of 12 years, children even as young as 5 and 6 years old who have been instrumental in attempted and full-blown penetration. And we did a follow-up study last year on our diversion program, which is a support program for abuse reactive children. And what actually emerged from the data is a lot of the children have been exposed to online child sexual abuse material. And in response to that, because I think we also need to factor in other challenges where children do not have a platform to actually go, a safe platform, to actually query, ask questions, and not in a position to process it. Children as young as 8 years old who are already exposed to pop-ups and hardcore pornography, the sexual abuse material. And a lot of them, we found these were children already a captive audience in our intervention programs, who confirmed that they had been exposed, who also verified that as a result of the exposure, not being able to seek any kind of further support or intervention, they went on to reenact what they were exposed to. So harming other children as a result of it. Some of the children also indicated that it became an addiction. They were, it was compulsive behavior, repetitive behavior. So if we look at the reasons for age restrictions on access to social media, where we come from, and I completely agree with my learned colleague, we want to expose children to the world to enhance their knowledge skills. The world is their oyster, and the internet is a very useful tool. Unfortunately, it can be a foe and definitely impact on their well-being, their mental health. So, addressing the physical, emotional, psychological development and legal rights of children, that's where we're coming from. I want to speak to the protection of mental health and well-being. And if you look at the risks here, what we are seeing playing out in schools, we're seeing a lot of cyberbullying and exposure to unrealistic standards, which can result in self-harm, harm to the self-esteem and body image. There's this identification of the grandiosity. We see the adverts, it all speaking to a lot of things. And, this could be very harmful to children because yes, children have the ability to think, and every child should be in a position to make an informed, positive choice. Unfortunately, every child does not have that kind of knowledge, does not have that kind of support or access to that kind of information.
All right, we're going to take a bit of a break. It is a good start. Both of you bringing very powerful insights on this debate. We're joined by Dr. Shaheeda Omar, who's a social justice activist and clinical director of the Teddy Bear Foundation, which provides trauma support, medical, psychological, and legal services to vulnerable children. Also doing great work with young people is Mignon Hardy, managing director of Life Choices, which is a youth development organization. We're going to continue with this debate. Very robust, started very strong, ladies. Let's take a bit of a break and then we'll come back and continue.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Download the SABC app and take Channel Africa with you everywhere you go.
This is our African View debate right here on The Move. Today we're debating the issue, should social media be age restricted? We continue with this debate with Dr. Shahida Omar, social justice activist and clinical director of the Teddy Bear Foundation, as well as Minon Hardy, managing director of the Life Choices, which is a youth development organization. Dr. Shahida Omar saying, yes, absolutely, social media should be restricted. And Minon Hardy saying, no, social media should not be restricted, even though there are age restrictions that are already existing within social media platforms. I'm going to come to you, Minon. Dr. Shahida speaks about very harrowing things that are taking place on social media. Is it fair to look at it from just the perspective of the potential harm that could take place to children?
I think it is, and not. But what I wanted to say is, right at the beginning, I said, social media is already age restricted. And my argument is very much that those age restrictions should be in place. At the same time, and it was actually what Dr. Shahida Omar also mentioned. She said that children as young as 8, they're discovering have been exposed to pornography. That means that they already are overcoming these age restrictions. So having age restrictions in place doesn't necessarily mitigate against harmful activity online. And my argument is very much that education and information needs to be in place in order to help young people to make decisions, and parents really need to step in. And that said, I know you've asked about all the positives of the internet, and I think that there are many there, and I think that young people also have a space to find community. In my former position, I was running an organization, Funds Literacy Trust, and it was all about reading and writing, and we used mobile technology in order to reach young people. And these were spaces where young people could read stories that were relevant to their lives, read articles, and also participate in putting their own creative writing online. And this was a really wonderful, safe space for young people to connect with each other and to learn and to share. And I think that, if you were saying that would not be accessible to young people, that would be a great disservice to them. And there are many other educational type apps and online spaces that, again, would be inaccessible if we were to say there's a blanket ban on social media for young people. So I do think that the negative or the harrowing stories, as Dr. Omar has kind of pointed out, these are very, very real, and we mustn't be sort of naive about the potential risks. At the same time, just banning people from using them is not actually going to stop the use, but we have to find other ways of being able to manage that.
Dr. Omar, you're saying that social media should be age restricted. What age should that be?
Well, I think if we look at the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for impulse control and decision making, is still developing in children. We know that the prefrontal cortex continues to develop until the age of 25. Now, I'm not being unrealistic or ridiculous, but I do believe that the age of 13 is not an unrealistic request for age verification and restriction, because what we are seeing is that we are awakening children to sexual debuts, to violence, normalizing, toxic masculinity, and of course, children are being socialized by what they're seeing. If we just look at the games that children play, one of the games on Roblox, and how destructive, but it normalizes and the pathology, underlying pathology is valorized for children.
Sorry to cut you off there. What is Roblox? Can you help us? Yes.
Roblox. Sorry, it's a game that children would have access to, and it's destroying people in the game. It's using violence, and it's sensationalized, and the gratification, because what does it do? It creates a thrill in the child, and they're engaging in violent games, which is actually acceptable in the game. So that's what I'm trying to just express and articulate, that children are awakened to things they are not in a position to respond to adequately and appropriately. Manon is absolutely correct. It's there, it's out there. We need to create greater awareness, but at the same time, we need to set limits as well. And of course, empower children, empower parents, because we come from an ecological framework. You cannot work with a child in isolation. Children are both in systems and part of systems, so on different levels. We need to empower everybody in order to identify potential risks, management, engagement, and ensuring that children make positive and responsible choices. I think we need to understand that young children lack the emotional maturity to navigate online conflicts, trolling, or rejection. And for me, that is of grave concern. That is what we are seeing. And if you see the number of children that are coming into our intervention program on support program for abuse reactive children, it's alarming, because we are seeing them across the province. And actually, we are getting referrals outside of the province. And unfortunately, there aren't adequate programs out there to respond to it. But listening to Minon, we are also at the same time not only reactive and responding to the crisis on the ground, we are looking at more and more prevention.
Well, Minon, let me come to you. We're about to wrap up. Other than restriction, I think it's a different conversation to speak about restriction versus management. What can be done to manage social media for young people if it is not completely restricted for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it does start in the home, and if parents are going to be buying or getting a device for their child to use, then I think that that's the point where you have to have a conversation, and it shouldn't be just a once-off conversation about how the device is being used, but an ongoing conversation around access to that device and what information they can or should not have access to. I think as well, what I was mentioning earlier about the modeling of behavior, because, I mean, even for adults, I think we can get ourselves dopamine addicted and, running for, how many likes did that last post get, and how do we actually start to change our own behaviors in terms of social media, and using technology that does actually protect them as well, to making sure, and I think that starts, again, as soon as you get your child a device, then you need to be, as a parent, you need to be thinking, well, how do I make sure that then this device is going to be a safe device for my child? And then those ground rules as well. I was just doing some background reading too, before this, and I mean, I thought there were some really amazing tips online around what parents can be doing, and sort of setting as scenarios. So, for instance, not having phones in the bedroom at night, but making sure that those are all at a charging station. But then your own phone is also there, so that you're not doing something that your child can't do. And I mean, I know one of the biggest things is having open and honest conversations with your child, and often these can be difficult, particularly I think in those teen years where children are really challenging to parents and wanting to be independent. But then really thinking, how do we create space to be able to have these conversations, to be able to talk about the experiences that they are having online and how to make sure that these are positive ones for them. I'm sure there's a lot more, but I will leave it there. Thanks.
Well, thank you so much. We have run out of time, and I think these were both quite informative and compelling arguments. One that parents and guardians should actually have listened very closely to today, because even though both perspectives might be slightly different, I think they're both greatly important in the decision making that parents do and how they allow their children to access that online space.
Yeah, I haven't been sitting on the fence for a long time, but I think both our guests gave impeccable exposition on some of the different sides of the coin there. So very powerful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Shahida Omar, social justice activist and clinical director of the Teddy Bear Foundation, which provides trauma support, medical, psychological, and legal services to vulnerable children, as well as Menon Hardy, managing director of Life Choices, which is a youth development organization. Where do you stand in this particular debate? Should social media be age restricted? It's 10:31 Central Africa time. Let's get our latest sports news with Figile Lingwati.